Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our another interesting panel discussion for the day, reimagining manufacturing operations and digital collaboration. For this panel, I would like to welcome the moderator for the panel, Garima Pan, Assistant Editor, Elets Technomedia.
Thanks, Nishant.
And I would like to welcome the panelist, Dr. Vineet Bansal, Group Chief Information Officer, Surya Roshni Limited.
Hello, Nishant.
Welcome, sir. And I would like to welcome Mr. Sharad Agarwal, Chief Digital and Information Officer, JK Tire and Industries Limited.
Good afternoon to
Welcome,
everyone.
sir.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I would like to welcome Mr. Abhay Bapna, Associate Vice President, IT AWL.
Hello everybody, looking forward to the session.
Yes, welcome, sir. So I would like to also welcome Mr. Shiv Kumar Hati, General Manager, IT Schneider Electric.
Hello everyone, glad to meet you all.
Thank you, sir. So now over to you, Garima, to take this panel ahead.
Thank you, Nishant. I once again welcome all my esteemed guests for a discussion on Reimagine manufacturing operations and digital collaboration. So to begin the discussion, I'd like to pose the first question to Mr. Shivakumar, sir. Where does one begin the digital transformation journey, Mr. Shivakumar? And is there a step-by-step approach to it? If you could share your thoughts on this.
Yeah, thanks, Karima, for the question. So I'd like to put my thoughts over here. So we have a set process. How do we achieve the digital transformation? But before getting into the set process, one, as an organization or an individual will have to think, why do we need the digital transformation to be done in an organization? Are there any objectives to be achieved? And these objectives are really linked to any of the outcomes. So that's very important to know, why digital transformation has to be kicked off in an organization, so we can bring in some changes into the overall way that we manufacture and we achieve the outcomes. Three parameters one has to really study and understand. Are we really increasing the productivity by this digital transformation? Are we getting into the reduction of the overall cost? And also, are we getting into an improvement of the quality that we need to achieve? So that's very important, that these three parameters. And fourth, but not the least, we need to also see whether it is really sustainable to have this whole outcomes to be achieved. So once these answers are being put on the table, and then we start linking each of these outcomes to the objectives, that's where we get into the set process that we define with respect to the transformation that we need to assume. So once we are getting into that process, we need to define whether there are any inherited process. So identify the business process. The first thing will be to see which are the business processes that are there in the factory. Try to paraphrase them, and right from the business, try to understand what is the end-to-end process. So once we have identified the business process, the integrities of it, then that's where we need to clearly jolt down the business requirement. So once the requirement is there, we need to understand what is the scale of operations I need to touch upon in a factory. Whether it is one line I want to touch upon, I want to transform that line into digital way, or it is the entire factory, or it is multiple factories or multiple countries. So the scale of operations is which will help me define what exactly the scope I'm touching upon in a nutshell. So once that part is answered, so we need to get into an enterprise scaled architecture. So what I mean by that is, if we have to define an architecture at the enterprise level, we need to consider what is the backend infrastructure I need to work upon. What is the connectivity, the internet part of it? How is my whole backend infrastructure is going to be placed? That's very important. Apart from my transaction systems like ERP and custom applications and all, I need to focus upon what is going to be the backend infrastructure. What are the technologies I'll choose? What will be the infrastructure? Apart from that, what will be the Wi-Fi or a LAN WAN setup that I'm going to set up? Everything has to be put in an enterprise scale architecture. So once the architecture is ready, the next can step into the defining of the right technology. So choosing of the right technology is the next step. You'll have to see what I can achieve with the existing transaction systems. If I have an SAP or Oracle or any of the transaction systems, ERPs, I need to define what can I achieve as a transformation within the existing capability of the applications I have. then I have to just step in, like, if I have to build in custom applications, choose the technologies which is going to be in now Microsoft technologies or something else. You need to define that. Apart from that, if you have to get into an RPAs, AI, ML, low code, there are plenty of platforms, right? So choosing the right technology which is suiting to your scale of operations, and also the ROI that you are going to receive out of it, it's very important. So that's where we need to get into the choosing of the right technology that we have to do. The process next would be, like, what is that you want to achieve, whether you want to there's a right
Yeah.
blend required of the human and digital interface into the whole setup. So we call it as a change management model, where we need to have the right workforce digitally enabled, empowered to assume these changes, and also the blend of the technology which is going to be understood and deployable to a particular setup. So a major step, where we'll have to identify the right people are there, right sources are there in the place, so that they can be, and catalyst in the whole process. The journey is not going to be easy, but it makes easy when we have the right people put in place. And last but not the least, what I'm also suggesting, having a sustainable model, choosing the technology, putting the infrastructure, putting people, putting a lot of time, effort, money, everything. Is it going to be a sustainable thing with the environment we are working, whether it's going to long last or it's going to be for the short term? So nothing for an enterprise will be in short term, right? So everything has to be in long term, and it has to be in sustainable. So these steps will help one to define the set by set process once we are linking the objectives and the outcomes related to that. That's my thought process in this setting of the
Right.
transformation
Right,
process.
sir. Right, sir. Very, very well elaborated, sir. Thank you so much for your, introductory remarks on this. Dr. Vineet Bansal, if I may ask you to share your thoughts on this similar question, please.
So basically, this is about a digital journey, right? So in any organization, for any organization nowadays, digital journey is is must, and I must say for the manufacturing sector especially. Uh, so in manufacturing sector, it depends also in so what type of manufacturing sector it is. Like for example, it is a plywood industry, or it is a maybe the lighting business. So these two different businesses will have to have different digital strategy for this journey. And also it depends, like if we have the manufacturing unit, so what kind of setup we can have in the manufacturing setup, like AI, IoT. So all, and what kind of setups we require, and how we can automate the processes using these technologies. And also from the sales side, like the e-commerce and dealer management systems. So it all depends on the all the on the industry type, but definitely digital journey for any industry is required nowadays. And we have learned in COVID-19 also, like if we are having digital platform in place, so we can handle any situations, and our systems will be up and running in any situation.
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bansal, for your thoughts. Uh, Mr. Sharat Agrawal, coming to you. We see a substantial technological penetration, in every industry these days. If you could share, your views on how this has transformed the manufacturing industry over the last few years.
Yeah, thank you. Just before moving to this question, Mr. Shiv Kumar and Dr. Bansal had very aptly summarized about where to begin. One thing I'd like to add over there also is that let the child in yourself, let loose the child in yourself, and let him play with the thoughts, whatever you want to. Yes, we are enterprise. We need everything enterprise grade, but don't let that child die. Let him or her explore newer ideas. Okay. Coming to the penetration of technology, because manufacturing per se has been means coming to any of the sector has been industrial revolution one two, you look was more driven by manufacturing majorly. So technology has been a harbinger of change in the manufacturing industry. Wherever you, because manufacturing, you look at just majorly three things, as pointed out by Shiv Kumarji. One is, oh, can you increase productivity? Can you decrease cost? Or can you bring more value, more quality to the customer? So what and apart from them, you also need to look on the safety, which is the prime safety and the environment and part also, which are very important, rather the foremost important parts. Coming to the operational perspective, so technology helps you do everything for you, but the point is how costly or how optimally priced the technology is. Because we had technology to wirelessly talk to each other when people, when there were satellites being sent outside out for Earth in 60s. The technology was there, but it was not, I would say, optimally priced to be adopted commercially. So the commercial angle for adoption of technology is an important area. And second is, with these times, we are working, the technological offerings, tools are evolving so fast that whatever we thought yesterday is not feasible is becoming feasible as at an affordable cost. So whether it's automation, so automation being driven by robots or cobots, all sort of things are coming into play. Even automation of processes, though not directly related to manufacturing, but from the software side, RPA is coming into play strongly. Adoption of advanced analytics powered by machine learning, powered by artificial intelligence, powered by algorithms is reaping in benefits for all of us. So manufacturing has always been benefiting out of technology and will keep benefiting out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Agrawal. Dr. Vineet Bansal, if you could also, share some thoughts on this question. Dr. Bansal, you're on mute, please. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Dr. Bansal.
So, technology is something which is required everywhere. Like for example, let me take an example of our lighting business. In lighting business, if I say all the smart lights, all the professional lights which are there in the street lights, I can say. So all these are connected, and everything is nowadays we want to be connected with these smart devices. So if we want to have that kind of setup, so we have to integrate our manufacturing setup as such, like all these are integrated all together. And we can produce the technology so that that technology can be used in the market, and that technology can be integrated with the other platforms as well. We have to, so these rapid changes which is coming, so we have to be also aligned with those technological changes. And we have, our businesses also should be aligned, and our manufacturing setup, our R&D centers also should be aligned with the current technologies, so that anything we are producing should work in the new environment, and should be updated as well, right? So definitely these rapid changes are making us to be on the new technology era.
Right. Thank you so much, sir. So, what we've seen is, from rapid changes in technology to increasing consumer demands, now every industry is trying to reinvent processes for a more sustainable future. Mr. Bapna, I would like to know from you, how is the manufacturing sector building a future ready strategy to keep up with the pace of change?
Yeah, so hello. Uh, like every other industry, we also have multiple. We are in the process industry, having multiple plants, with multiple technologies. Some of the plants are like 15 years old, some are at the latest. When you want to go for the technology, you have to identify. How we did is we identified what are our critical problems, how do we solve it, should I do automation or should I do digitization. So that's how we went about, and we identified that there are many things to be done. And first and foremost point we started was the predictive maintenance. In order to do predictive maintenance, what are the things you need to have? The existing machines detail in place actually, which was manual, which was not automated, which is not digitized, and you don't know when to change the spares or call a maintenance function. So that's when our problem started, and that's how we started. We started with one plant as a pilot for predictive maintenance, and then we realized that say boiler becomes a critical for a production line for us, and boiler frequently goes down. How do I reduce the downtime of that? And that's how we started with small IoT devices, enabled it for many monitoring of temperature, pressure, vibration, and calibration component. And then we realized yes, it is helpful. Not we realize it, actually it is the plant team who realized that they are getting information in advance, because we have a historical data. It can suggest you temperature is going up, you have to go and look at the machine. So that's how that took some time, but it is helping them to take better decision, quicker decision, and reduce the downtime actually. And that we have implemented at close to 10 plus plants across India. Same is the case with the logistic within plant, digitization where or wherever the paperwork is there, automate, or plant maintenance, inventory management. Operational efficiency is the one factor which is very now. The problem what happens is when demand is equal to supply, you don't have much thing. But when demand is high and supply is a constraint, then you start looking into predictive maintenance, operational efficiency, utility monitoring, digitization to reduce and do analytics component. So we also started our journey 4 5 years back. It's a gradual thing. You cannot say ki I will do all the plans at one go and I will be. So it was a journey. But during journey, first initially the challenge was related to the sensors, stacks, connectivity to the last mile, collecting the data. Volume velocity of the data is so high that you are taking, say, in case of energy utilities, we take data every 15 seconds. The reason is the our main component of our refining component is electricity, which is high consumption. How do we reduce that? Why it is going up? Why it should not be controlled at right time? Somebody taking corrective action at the edge level, not at the uh, later on. So our main purpose of this is to improve the plant level efficiencies, productivity, and visibility of data, so that you can take corrective action. And that's how our journey started 4 years back. We are in the middle of journey, and trying to mature, because all these technologies involve people process technology component plus security becomes the key. IoT devices, we have close to 20,000 tags which collects the data. Now how first we have to redefine the security component before we install that. And we are in the middle of journey, but now management knows that these are the critical components to be taken care, so we are working on that. And I think we have done reasonably good progress as far as.
Right, Mr. Bhavna. You raised a very, two very important, pertinent points. What which to choose, digitization or automation? So how were you able to make that choice? And also, as you say, it's a very, the process is very disruptive. It's happening at a very rapid pace. So how are you able to maintain that pace with the change?
So like we like say in case of where our production is 24 by 7, we had to focus on automation plus digitization. So simple is automatic replacement. Um, this
Say you're on mute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
automatic warehouse management, palletization, moving the ensuring that the product is at right place, then ensuring that when the dispatch needs to be done, those are the one which where we had to do both digitization and automation at the shop floor level, so that the movement of the turnaround becomes very fast, easy to identify. You don't have to spend. So both combination was done at the plant level. And other, like within plant also, the truck turnaround time movement is one area where we did at some level. Unmanned weigh bridge is one operation, in integration with the logistic, clearing the paperwork when the truck comes. We do all this work in advance so that the time at the gate, time at the weighing, time at the loading is reduced. Or even automation or the shop floor palletization, because we have a huge number of pallets and you cannot identify manual. So you need to know where the pallet exactly is. You have to use combination of augmented reality so that they know, okay, which are the sequence in which I have to go, where to collect and load or unload. So we did couple of things, but it's just step by step. You cannot say, okay, I can do it easily. And there are challenges. People, process, technology, people will
Right.
understand gradually, but they realize that in the end it is they who are getting benefit actually.
Hmm.
The stress level gets reduced, technology is really helping you.
Right, right, right. Thank you, Mr. Bhavna. Mr. Shivakumar, your thoughts on how manufacturing sector is building a future-ready strategy to keep up with the pace of change. Shivkumar, sir, you're on mute, please.
Sorry. So I was saying, like, for me, sustainability today is treated as a growth factor. To the digital technology, what we have, and technology actually acts as an accelerant or a catalyst to the whole sustainability future. It is like, not only the aspect of reducing the carbon footprint totally for a factory, but also, having a bigger vision through the sustainability. Digital technology or process engineering, re-engineering that we have to do should drive holistically the way environment and the social factors are getting impacted to that. So sustainability also comes through that, where we need to redefine, re-engineer a lot of processes, and then get into the whole journey of the sustainability along with the growth and the transformation that we need to assume. The organizations, like, they prioritize based on the impact they're going to deliver to the environment. If you take care, I mean, the healthcare or the consumer products and all, they put the social related sustainability as part of their journey. So because they are impacting the bigger level of social economic affairs. And if we take care of the heavy industrialization, the energy, steel industry, all these heavy industrial goods manufacturing ones, they put the environment as an key or core of the sustainability factor. So that helps them to drive the overall agenda of sustainability along with the growth and the digital transformation that they do. The first thing that they look at it is also, the supply chain optimization, right from the material inward, the material inspection, and then going on to the assembly, and then finished goods, quality, dispatch, shipment, and then the transportation delivery to the customer, right? So all these aspects of supply chain has to be, optimized with respect to the linking it to the sustainability factor, where we are not harming environment anywhere there. So that also becomes a growth factor for us to, make it more an obligation of an organization, and also, putting it much into the blood of the organization, saying that, okay, if you have to drive the sustainability, you'll have to make processes more intelligent through the digital way of execution. So the second factor also is, like, consistently the applications are there to reduce the power usages, be it, the consumption in the factories or at the sales offices. There is a continuous improvement that happens in terms of reducing the overall power consumption. I also think, like, there's a lot of supply and manufacturing waste that gets generated every day in a manufacturing unit. So the reduction of that, even, automating the processes of PO generation, and then the ASNs, and then integrating a lot of our systems with the supplier, reduces a lot of, energy from both the ends. And that's where the digital way of executing things will contribute to the overall environment and the sustainability factor. Also, employee collaborations, making digital ready, as Mr. Abhay sir
Right.
was saying, like, it is something on people, process, and technology, right? You have to have the workforce which is digitally ready. The acceptance, adaptability is all very important, so that the digital platforms are getting included in the day-to-day activities. Diversity inclusion, which is very important. A lot of organizations have initiated on that, which is linking to the sustainability goal of an organization. More importantly, right, from the digital point of view, I think, like, it is very important to have an right critical incident management process, from the way of we are adopting so much of warp speed in the whole digitalization journey. We need to have that critical incident management process. We need to have incident managers. Then there's a risk profile, more what we call into, like, when we step into this cyber risk, there is something cyber resilience we need to build. Any intrusion, any single compromise in the data, because we are exposing a lot of components, be it PCs, PLCs, scanners, the Torx devices, a lot of devices that we are enabling connectivity through our Wi-Fi or wired connectivity. So all these things have to be very much put into a place, and then there is a resilience team needed, or an NOC team, or an internet operating team, which is more working towards the cyber risk assessment, or the assessment of the overall incidents that we encounter in a day-to-day activities. Because the more we expose the components, the objects on the shop floor to the outside world, these things are there, where we'll have to build the resilience, which is again related to our sustainability aspect. Lastly, right, I also think, like, the data protection of our employees, the customers, is very important, because we need to protect the data. Once we are exposing the data, we are saving the data, storing the data, we need to get into the privacy of the data, data protection. And India is also launched into, very soon they'll get into a policy of GDPR, which is very important to save and protect the data of individual as well as the customers. So all these are relating to the growth aspects of an organization. Once we start embarking the journey of digital transformation, we will start facing all these aspects of the deployment journey. And then it is very important also for us to ensure that once we are into this journey, we are also securing holistically not only the infrastructure, the applications, but also the people and customer who are the big stakeholders of this journey.
Right, right. Very pertinent thoughts, Mr. Shivkumar. Thank you so much for that. Mr. Agrawal, coming to you, as Mr. Shivkumar mentioned about adaptability. So, what solutions manufacturers are embracing to adapt and respond to new regulations and norms easily?
Yeah, so first, some of the most important are obviously related towards ESG, environment, safety, and governance. So Shukumarji touched very lucidly about all of these. So we have to be very careful of the environmental impact that we may knowingly, unknowingly in the sense, if we are procuring something, what's its carbon footprint or other social footprint? Are they means are they using sustainable policies not just from an environment perspective but from a social perspective? Means for example, they shall not be using a child labor, or they shall not be using means by which they are suppressing or oppressing uh, the workforce that's working with them. So we have to be very cognizant of the fact, not just in spirit but both in spirit and letter, to follow those rules. From a manufacturing perspective, yeah, rather overall perspective, the IT policies, the upcoming PDP law, which Shivkwaj mentioned as GDPR, the upcoming PDP laws would uh, let everyone to have a look the way they are storing data, how much of it has to be anonymized, rather how much has to be stored in the first instance is to be taken care of. And nowadays social marketing, social interaction of enterprise is increasing a lot. We have to be very careful of what we are doing there. Means, are we even by mistake or by misintent suggesting something which can be harmful to society? Because I was reading a news, one of the Japanese CEOs was fired yesterday or day before only because of some some difficult remark that he made. So we have to be very careful of because whatever we as corporates, enterprises are doing is getting analyzed and dissected every minute. We need to be very careful. I'm not saying that don't do anything, but be responsible, be socially responsible, be a corporates have to be a socially responsible citizen. So that shall be the aim of all the enterprises. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Dr. Vineet Bansal, if you could also share some of your thoughts on this question.
So rightly, Sharadji already explained. I think all these areas definitely. In manufacturing especially, there are lots of things which can be protected through using technology. For example, the environment, which is which can be protected while we are manufacturing. So we can have the technology, like we can put some IoT sensors, artificial intelligence we can use. So by using all these technologies, I think we can safeguard the environment, and we can be more regulated. Like I can take the example of the plywood and MDF manufacturing industry. So where when while manufacturing the MDF, there is a carbon generation is there. So that carbon footprint can be bring down using the technology, like we can save the environment using the technology. So these uh, there are lot many examples in any manufacturing industry. So where using technology, we can optimize the uh, environment, and we can save the environment.
Right, right. Thank you, Dr. Bansal. Mr. Bhagna, I'd like to come to you now and understand from you, how the implementation of smart manufacturing technology is helping the manufacturing industry to prepare for the future ecosystem.
So in this, I will like to say like every company has different DNA. So our company, the challenges are different. Some tire industry, the complexity will be different. We had a complexity in the sense that optimize utilization of resources from coal to generating the steam to electricity. So we had those challenges. Second challenge was the raw material we are using. So granules, tins, jars, packaging material. How do I optimize those to reduce the direct or indirect? So how we started was two components. One at the manufacturing level, constantly monitoring these parameters, ensuring that the downtime is reduced or the consumption of those materials are taken care. It is not increasing. We are not contributing indirectly to the sustainable this thing. So we started with that. Second was predictive maintenance downtime, and third is the operational. We divided it to three. So our main focus now still remains on the operational efficiency. Thereby, you are using the resource more efficiently. It can be raw material, it can be electricity, water, gas, steam, or packaging material. So we have used different technologies. So at different utilities, we have a different way of measuring. Operational efficiency, we have used different tools, and for predictive maintenance, we have used. So it's a combination of technology from sensors to edge computing to AI to ML and visualization of this data for immediate. So we went into different way of working because of volume and number of plants. So we identified those and started working on it.
Right, right. Thank you, Mr. Bhagna. Mr. Shivakumar, your thoughts on how the manufacturing industry is preparing for a future ecosystem. Sir, if you could unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. The buzzword being the smart factory, right? I mean, a lot of changes that has been evolved. I think Sharjit touched upon, like, industry 1.0 to 4.0. We have come a long way, right? Being purely mechanical and then introducing electrical part of it, then getting into an electronics part of it, the integrated circuits, bringing in a lot of mechatronics evolved over the journey. And then with all this, started deploying the firmware, hardwares, and softwares into the manufacturing setup. We also now have intelligence that is getting involved. A lot of AI things that has been aiding the whole journey, right? So industry 4.0 is more into building in a lot of intelligence into the overall system. So that's why the smart factory plays a very key role. And then we'll see like a very new breed of factories that would come up once we start getting into this journey. The whole setups which are like more and more state of the art in terms of end-to-end digitization, right from the factories which are the material inbound happens till the FG dispatches. There's a lot of digitization we see in end-to-end thing. We need to build a lot of intuitive application landscape in all of this, where we can leverage all these processes related to the factories or supply chain or the marketing and sales, right? We need to build those intuitive and new applications which are more adaptable easily, and then it helps in the overall journey to achieve the that smartness in the overall operations. So with that journey, right, I mean, we'll also have to see, like, how do we make that real time data exchanges between the platforms. It is not only the ERP, right? So we have ERP. Along with that, we'll have the Salesforce, we'll have pricing and quotation applications, we'll have a lot of other inner facing and the customer facing or supply facing applications. All that have to be integrated. That's where the beauty of whole digitization comes up, where the end-to-end digitization can be achieved when we get into the overall integrated platforms. Each of these applications through have to talk through an API or other mode of middleware, where the data exchange becomes more real time. So that's where the decision making becomes very quick, fast, and the turnaround of the decisions is very important. So we call it smart because we have to ensure that all these platforms are talking to each other. And the end of the day, I get the visibility of the overall dashboard, which is more concentrating on the manufacturing analytics or the control tower, what we term it as, with respect to a factory or a particular setup. So that's where we need to ensure that these technologies talk to each other. AI and ML, we spoke a lot about it, and these will almost replace the human behavior that is happening. It is not only about intelligence, it is also about replacing the behavior what we see physically a man doing it in a shop floor. So that's another aspect of it. So with the 5G coming in, right, a lot of manufacturing units have already jumped into that. So the
Right.
latency, what we speak about, where the IoT device is connected, they go to the local data center or some data center put up in Singapore, Canada, or somewhere, right? So they'll go to the cloud. So all this latency we used to complain upon, the 5G has already jumped into it, and they are getting industrialized, and then it is more getting into the removing all those barriers of the connectivity, and the data is able to be pushed right from the shop floor devices to the cloud. And from there, I can stage the data and build a visualization, build my analytics, and make my decision making very intuitive, and then very fast and quick, which is also in reliable data. So for that, we'll have to ensure that the shop floor is well connected. We should have the right MES systems. We should have traceability applications put in place, where we can start even with the OCR and other visual inspection kind of applications will really help even trace back what component has gone into which FG, and then trace it back to the supplier who has supplied that component. To that level, I can make this smart, factory as smart as possible, and the entire manufacturing setup talks to each other with the help of this IoT and other devices which are interconnected. So a lot of intelligence that is getting built. This paradigm shift that we also see in terms of the way the material inspection happens, right from the inward, the movement, the quality dispatch, as I said like earlier, with till the shipment and transportation that happens to the customer. All of this will have to get changed with the injection of whole of this digital process. And also, like, there are a lot of things on the remote maintenance and management that we are talking about. AR VR will touch upon it. The smart glasses that have been come up will where we'll be able to connect to the supplier with a wearable device. I mean, it's just easy, like he will instruct the local guy to operate on it and fix it as early as possible. So we also contribute to sustainability model there, where we don't have to ask for a person to travel and then spend a lot of time effort on it. It is just over a connection of a device, and then we are able to resolve those things. With all this, will be able to deliver a lot of quality in the overall system, and then the end-to-end smart factory thing will become an not only jargon, but it is more of a reality. And then the journey of 1.0 to 4.0, and a lot of people are talking about 5.0 also. It will be the future, and that's where the new setups that are going to come up from the factories point of view will be more evolved compared to the breed of factories what we have today.
Right, sir. Mr. Bapna, I think you wanted to add something here. I see your message in the chat box.
As Mr. Shiv Kumar was saying, we have also done many things, but like say augmented reality was the first thing at warehouse where we used to find that we have a freshness issue. So where do you store material? How do I, like, loading, unloading, and picking at the right time, so to ensure that so how do we use that tool to ensure that the warehouse person knows where is the material, what date it is, what is the expiry date. Through visualization, he knows which pallet he has to go, in which sequence he has to go, so that the turnaround time is reduced, and better visibility and better turn at the depot level. So same with uh, if you say OCR, we have used it from plant, and both from you customer point of view, automatic getting purchase order without any manual intervention, either through EDR or getting PDF document, converting that. So validation efforts get reduced. As in, when your business is growing, same people through digitization are able to do better work more efficiently. Nobody needs to stay till midnight to enter POs and all this. So different areas we have worked, and that's a journey. I think that's the main thing actually.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Agrawal and Dr. Vineet Bansal, if I could also, understand from you, the future roadmap. How do you see smart manufacturing technology shaping, the future ecosystem of your respective industries? Mr. Agrawal, if we can begin from you.
Yeah, thank you. So there are two parts to it. One is the products getting smarter.
Yeah.
Just in case, just as we have launched the smart tire, which can talk to your smartphone over web to your vehicle, and let you know its state of health. That's just a beginning. Probably currently we are monitoring temperature, pressure, and couple of other things. But times may come that this smart tire may become a auto healing tire also.
Okay.
Auto healing, or sort of, which can reduce or increase the pressure as required. And if it sees, so another tire that we have introduced is a puncture proof tire. So it's a step towards getting auto heal tires. So one would be the outcome towards getting smarter products. And secondly, as we know that manufacturing is in India specifically used to be a labor intensive industry. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to use from no skilled, unskilled labor to a semi skilled to a high skilled labor. So what's happening? The machines are automated, the processes are automated. Even if I compare my first plant and my latest plant, the manpower used per tire would be quite less in the newer plants. And if we go 20 years ahead, it would go further down. I have heard, though I'm not very sure, I've heard that there are some plants not in India in which very few people, means you need not even people counting in four digits. Couple of hundred people are able to manage the entire plant, as opposed to couple of thousand people required normally. And most uh, so people would be using a smart inspection, a smart quality control gates. So everything would be integrated. Idea would be, so though not very relevant here, but idea is to reach a supply chain ultimate goal of batch size of one. You order something, you get that thing. It's very customized to you. So that's where I see future of manufacturing, into smarter manufacturing techniques as well as smarter products. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you, sir. Dr. Bansal, your 2 cents on this, please.
Yeah. So I think I can take the example of the plywood industry and MDF industry. If I compare both the industries, so plywood is completely a manual manufacturing process, and MDF is completely automatic manufacturing process. So in both the processes there is a lot of so in plywood there is a lots of labor involved, and in MDF there is no labor involved. So it is a completely automatic process. So this is and this is the future, and MDF is the future, and so in most of the applications nowadays we are using MDF, and MDF in coming time will replace the plywood completely, because now getting manufacturing done with the labor is also a is also not possible. So like in COVID days, our MDF plant was running 24/7, but our plywood plant was completely shut because of the labor. So this is how the smart manufacturing or the can help. And in the current business, like the smart lights. So smart lights are the future. Your lights are connected with Alexa, with Google, and your smart appliances are there. So everything is now connecting, and you can control your devices. So definitely, the smart manufacturing in every area is the future.
Right, right. Thank you, thank you. I think we've had a very insightful discussion, and we see the a very exciting future for the manufacturing sector ahead. So thank you to all my panelists, for the wonderful and pertinent insights that you shared on this subject. And over to you, Nishant, for the felicitation.
Thank you, all the speakers. Thank you, Garima, for such a wonderful moderation. Also, thank you, all the speakers. As a token of appreciation, I would request you all to stay back for about 10 to 15 seconds to hand over the certificates. Can we have the certificates on the screen, please? Yes, here the certificate goes to Dr. Vineet Bansal, Group Chief Information Officer, Surya Roshni Limited. Thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing the great insights. Thank you for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Abai Bapna, Associate Vice President, IT, AWL. Thank you, sir, for joining us and sharing the insights. Next one, I would like to thank Mr. Sharad Agarwal, Chief Digital and Information Officer, JK Tire and Industries Limited. Thank you so much for joining, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And making this panel so interesting. And definitely, thank you so much, Shiv Kumar Hatiji, for General Manager IT, Schneider Electric India Private Limited, for joining the panel and sharing the insights. Thank you, everyone, for joining this and making this panel such an interesting panel. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity to share your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.